A very good evening and welcome to Frankly Speaking with Renuka. Obviously, I am Renuka और मेरे में से मुझे कितने लोग नहीं जानते हैं? Well, they must raise a hand right now so that मैं उनकी क्लास लगा सकूं. But well, welcome. This is another episode of Frankly Speaking, and right from the studios of Radio Masti 24/7. Yes, it looks like not my studio, but that's because I want this to be a kind of a living room discussion. I want it to be a very cozy discussion. I want it to be a heart-to-heart discussion because you know what this show is all about. If you guys don't have a view, or you don't have the courage to share your view, then in that case, I have a problem. Because this show is all about being candid. It's about accepting within your mind and within your heart that, yes, this is how I thought, and this may not be the right way of thinking. All right. So I'm not trying to change your views, guys. इससे पहले कि आप लोग ये सोचें कि हम लोग बिल्कुल totally hello, Geetika, how are you? And thank you so much for your very amazing comment on our Facebook page. Thank you. मुझे आप जैसे लोग बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद हैं, Geetika. But I'm going to read your comment in just a little bit. But सबसे पहले, I do want to say something to you right now. This show, as you know, is about sharing your thoughts. It's about speaking up. It's about having the courage to speak up. It's about raising topics in the society which are not spoken. So these are unspoken topics, right? हमें पता है ये सारी की सारी problems exist करती हैं या issues exist करते हैं, लेकिन हम उनके बारे में बात नहीं करना चाहते. क्यों? Well, we all have our reasons. Well, sometimes we choose to remain neutral and there is nothing wrong in that, okay? So there's no wrong, there's no right. These are experiences, these are aspects जो हम एक दूसरे के साथ share करते हैं. आपको याद है हमारा पहला show of Frankly Speaking? जी हाँ, आज का हमारा शो जो है, इससे पहले जो शोज हुए हैं, द फर्स्ट वन वी टॉक्ड अबाउट हैविंग अ सन एंड इज हैविंग अ सन नेसेसरी टू कैरी ऑन अ फैमिलीज नेम. आपने अपने व्यूज शेयर किए थे, हमने अपने व्यूज शेयर किए थे, हमारे गेस्ट्स ने अपने व्यूज शेयर किए थे, एंड वी हैड सम डेटा फ्रॉम अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड. वी टॉक्ड अबाउट एक्सेप्टिंग LGBT community in the society. We talked about gender discrimination at the workplace. So there are so many topics that we are talking about, and there are so many people जो यहाँ पर आके हमारे गेस्ट बन के अपने व्यूज हमारे साथ शेयर करते हैं, अपने एक्सपीरियंसेस हमारे साथ शेयर करते हैं. And there are some people who choose to be anonymous. Well, it doesn't matter, because what matters is that you share your views with us. We don't want to know your name. हमें आपको कोई कहीं पर लेके नहीं जाना है, हमें आपकी कोई क्लास व्लास नहीं लगानी है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं करना. We just want you to be with us, and we just want you to think, is there something that we need to think about as a society? तो आज का टॉपिक, जैसा कि आप नीचे देख रहे हैं, it talks about acceptance of single women by our society. Does our society accept single women? आपका क्या ख्याल है इस बारे में? मैं थोड़ा सा आपको बैकग्राउंड देती हूँ इस बारे में कि इंडिया में, और आज हम इंडिया की बात इसलिए कर रहे हैं because a lot of us come from India, a lot of us talk about having been a part of India, and of course culturally we understand India most of us over here. So हर कोई या तो शादीशुदा होता है या on the way to getting married होता है. And the unmarried man जो भी होता है, they arouse some curiosity. And the unmarried women, they somehow get a pity. तो जब हम सिंगल वुमेन की बात करते हैं, आई वुड से आज के हमारा जो भी कॉन्वर्सेशन है उसमें 2 टाइप्स ऑफ सिंगल वुमेन की बात होगी. वन हु चूज टू रिमेन सिंगल. That means they choose not to be married. शादी नहीं करोगी, क्या बात कर रहे हो? That's the kind of reaction. And the second type of women that I'm talking about as single women are those who are divorced or separated. अब आप ये सोचिए, कई बार शादी होती है, ठीक है, आपसे कोई पूछता नहीं है इंडिया में कि आपको शादी करनी है या नहीं करनी है, most of the times. And then कहा जाता है कि there are 2 words, adjust and accommodate. ये चीजें बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट होती हैं शादी में. और जब ये चीजें हमको सिखाई जाती हैं, we are already in our mindset. We have decided that we have to adjust and accommodate. And I'm not saying only women, many times also the guys. But what if a marriage doesn't work out? What if the husband is a jerk or a wife is a pain? ऐसा हो सकता है, right? तब डाइवोर्स क्या ट्रेडिशनल इंडियन सोसाइटी में अलाउड होता है? अगर आप पहली बार अपने घर में जाके बात करते हो और कहते हो मुझे डिवोर्स चाहिए, व्हाट इज द इमीडिएट रिएक्शन फ्रॉम योर पेरेंट्स, फ्रॉम योर फैमिली, फ्रॉम एवरीबॉडी? आपको मैं 2 मिनट के लिए आई जस्ट वांट टू टॉक टू यू अबाउट व्यासा. यू नो व्यासा, द ऑथर ऑफ महाभारता. उन्होंने क्या कहा था कि जो भी चीज महाभारत में नहीं है, दैट डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट इन द इंडियन सोसाइटी. सो वेल, महाभारत में एक वाइफ है जिनके बहुत सारे हस्बैंड्स हैं. महाभारत में इनफिडेलिटी है. महाभारत में ऐसे आदमी हैं हु ड्रेस एज वुमेन. एंड महाभारत में और ऐसा बहुत कुछ है जो कि नॉर्मल लाइफ में होता है, लेकिन महाभारत में डाइवोर्स नहीं है, इफ यू हैव नोटिस्ड, बट इट डज एग्जिस्ट इन द सोसाइटी. फिर आती हैं फिल्में लाइक कभी अलविदा ना कहना. अब ऐसी फिल्में कहां से इंडियन सोसाइटी में एक्सेप्ट होंगी, आप बताइए. ऑल्सो द सेम टाइम डिवोर्स जो होता है, कहा जाता है कि ट्रेडिशनली सप्रेस किया जाता था इंडिया में, लेकिन लव मैरिज के साथ भी तो ऐसा ही था एक टाइम पर. सोचिए, many years ago, if you would go up to your parents and say, love marriage करनी है भाई, मुझे तो ये लड़का पसंद है, what was the immediate reaction? अब धीरे धीरे चीजें बदल रही हैं और बहुत कुछ हो रहा है. But anyway, on that note, guys, what I do want to do is I want to invite my first guest of the evening. एक एक करके सब आएंगे यहाँ पर और अपना अपना जो पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है एंड एक्सपीरियंसेस है वो शेयर करेंगे. आई हैव गॉट, हाय सपना, हाउ आर यू, नाइस टू हैव यू. हाय हेमा, वेलकम. डिस्कशन खत्म हुआ लिव इन और मैरिज का, या अभी भी चल रहा है आपके सर्कल्स में? मुझे जरूर बताइएगा. दैट वाज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एपिसोड एज वेल. Hi Mukul, welcome. All right, on that note, guys, I do want to invite a very special person on my show. Of course, I have two of them. So पहले एक को बुलाते हैं, followed by another one in just a little bit. मैं हूँ रेणुका और ये है Frankly Speaking. वेलकम वेलकम Ashria, how are you? Tell me, कैसी हैं आप?
बस मैं हूँ इंडिया में अभी. So and I've been here for a while, missing Singapore, missing all of you, missing Masti. Thank God it's online. But yes, everything
हर जगह पहुंच जाती है. मस्ती doesn't leave anybody. मस्ती ने डिसाइड किया है कि तुम कहीं भी जाओगे, we will follow you. And now not only audio but also visual. We're not going to spare you. Sorry.
More pleasure. Always a pleasure with Masti.
Thank you so much, Shreya, for being a part of Frankly Speaking. I have to thank you especially because एक बात होती है the courage, और एक बात होती है the experience. और जब इन दोनों का combination बन जाता है, then of course there is sharing. And you need the courage to share your experiences in life. So I just want to ask you one question before I invite my other guest who is patiently waiting backstage. I do want to ask you, Shreya, what categorizes you as single? So I know, but my audience would love to know, how are you categorized as single? Would you just share a little bit about your background?
Well, I've always believed single is something about a very mental construct, right? All of us who've grown up in India have grown up with very deep patriarchal roots and seeing that. So the way you construct singlehood, so to say, it has to be something very individual about yourself and not what society kind of, creates for you. So
Right.
for me, single is being simple things. It's about enjoying 2 glasses of wine all by myself, and that's fine. Having all the bed to myself, and being able to choose the profession I want to, being able to take decisions on my own. And I've been very lucky that my singlehood has been accepted by my family. And yes, I have no qualms saying I used to be married, and that didn't work out. What worked out was Singapore. So the marriage didn't work out, Singapore worked out, my work worked out, and here I am.
Awesome. So how long were you married for, Shreya, before you
6
got
years.
your
6
So
years.
6 years, all right. And did it end well? Did it end well? As in, was it amicable or was it not really?
It was amicable from the signing, but it was lopsided from the deal I got. I walked away without an alimony, Renuka, with only $1,000 in my account, and I started from scratch because I was dared by society and his friends to say, "Dekh lo, जी पाओगी या नहीं," you know. So so here I am.
Great.
जी रही हूँ.
जी रही हूँ और आज हमारे शो पर हूँ और बहुत कुछ आगे भी बात करूंगी और कहाँ से कहाँ पहुंच गई. We'll all talk about that. Shreya, hats off to you for being so candid right in the beginning. इतना मैं आपको बता सकती हूँ कि यहाँ पर we are proud of having you on the show. We're proud of what you just mentioned. Definitely being single, economically dependent, and from there to be independent is not easy. So we'll talk about that. अगर आपको बुरा ना लगे तो मैं आपको backstage एक बार फिर से भेजने वाली हूँ ताकि उसके बाद मैं आपको यहाँ पर वापस ला सकूँ in a very different way. No problem, right?
Not at all.
Perfect. Thank you.
Make sure you add Musty to your lives. Download the app today and stay energized and connected on the go. Radio Musty 24/7 Live. Singapore's only Bollywood radio since 2009.
ये दो बार क्यों बोल रहा था? Hello and welcome. Oh my God, I don't believe this. I have Buddha on the screen. अच्छा संगीता तुम भी हो?
I don't know if Buddha will speak to you, but maybe through me. Who knows?
Hey, you know what? Sangeeta, it is such a pleasure to have you here. I know the last time you were on the airwaves was during our Singapore Book of Records, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was. And it was energizing to have you around. And today as well, मतलब कमाल की बात है. तो संगीता मुझे क्या बताइए?
Thank you for having me again.
Most welcome. It's my honor. ऐसे ही बोलना होता है. बाकी backstage बोलो.
See, I said the right thing and then you said it back.
So Sangeeta, tell me, you've been in Singapore for a long time. How many years has it been?
18 and a half.
18 and a half. Wow. And this was after you got married or before you got married?
After. Well after.
Okay. And how long were you married before the divorce?
20 years.
20 years. All right. And that's not a small percentage of your life, if I may use that term, right?
No,
so,
it certainly is not. It's a sizable, period of time.
That's right. So overall, would you say that the life when you were together with your husband versus the life today, given a chance, what would you opt for? Leave the negativity out, whatever happened that led to the situation, but leave all that. Do you think you enjoyed your life then more, or do you like it now?
If I had to leave the negativity out, then what is it? I mean, then you're looking at two apples and grapes, right? No, actually, I quite enjoy my life now, to be honest. It's fabulous, but then I enjoy it because I've left negativity behind. So I can't really leave the negativity out of the equation when I talk about my life now.
Right. Okay. Deep. Deep. I like that and I expected that. भाई आज बड़ी powerful ladies हैं मेरे साथ में इस show पर और दोनों ही yeah, I know. No wonder the Buddha is required. But Sangeeta, tell me something. If you look at our topic, the question of today, and I ask you, does society in general accept single women or not? What would be your take?
My take would be entirely based on my experience, which is, yes, it does.
They do. There's no problem. You've never faced any kind of discrimination across anything. All right. We'll take a little bit of a break here, 10 seconds, and we'll get Shreya back on the screen with your permission. Le aun usko?
Le aao, bilkul. Let's bring.
Welcome again, Ashria and Sangeeta. आज का हमारा topic, of course, is does society accept single women? And we have two single, amazingly powerful and impactful, and two women who I always look up to. मतलब बहुत ही बड़ी बात है आज के दिन में कि आप दोनों मेरे साथ हमारे शो पर हैं, and I expect nothing but candid and frank discussion over here. So thank you again. यार मैं तुम लोगों से एक बात कहना चाहती हूँ कि long time ago, and I'm talking about not my younger days. I can't say that because I'm still obviously very young.
Very
But
young.
हाँ वो तो है. तो मेरे मम्मी डैडी कहते थे कि you know Indian society and divorce, right? So this was kind of a stigma. So in the modern times, आपको क्या लगता है कि इस time जब हम newspaper देखते हैं in the matrimonial columns, we have come across, you know, advertisements that talk about single and happy to get remarried, looking for a partner, and stuff like that, right? So how has the society sort of evolved from those times to now? Shreya, if you would like to just take this up and tell me, have you seen the change in society since for the past many years now, or you see no change?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely more accepted. People don't look down on you. They do, earlier they would. I got divorced, what, 12 years almost. Things have changed even now from then. The kind of thoughts and attitudes I saw those days, even in Singapore, among Indian societies, at times I felt, and if I can be really frank, it's frankly speaking, I felt India societies were definitely more progressive than people who have moved out and are living as non-residents. And there I did see a demarcation. There still is to some extent, but things have definitely gone towards a more positive end. I've seen discrimination. I've seen discrimination in the worst forms, but I've also seen acceptance. So like I said, it's not a yes or no. They have evolved, but there's still, I do see a little bit of a raised eyebrow when you say, well, you're divorced. But people accept it more openly, and they say, well, things happen. But in India, I think India progressed way better than societies that move away. And the way I see it is maybe when some communities we move away or diasporas move away, they cling on to cultures and roots because they're away from their land and with what they have been accustomed to. So, but yes, to answer your question, things have definitely changed for the better.
Okay. And Sangeeta, have you also felt the same? That since the time, the parents' time, and of course now, have things changed? And I would also like to understand how long did it take you to take a call on being separated or sort of moving on from the time that you made up your mind?
Renuka, my circumstance is very different. So I moved out of the house within 2 weeks of a certain incident. So it's kind of slightly more dramatic and different. But for me, it was a question of never looking back. It was a final straw. It was the one decision that sat very clearly in my head, and there was no two ways about it. And honestly, I did not care a damn about what anybody thought. For me, it was just, this is it, and I'm stepping out, and I need to move ahead. And one of the reasons why I have never bothered about anything is, I think, because I've just been so caught up in just running my day-to-day life, and making sure that everything is fine, and it's fine for my daughter and me, and running my company. I've just not bothered about what anyone else, whether they accept me or not. I mean, my thing is very, very simple. You pay my bills. If you're paying my bills, I will listen to you. If you're not paying my bills, I can't be bothered.
I like that.
I so agree. Yes.
Absolutely. But you know what? I just want to make sure everybody who's tuned in right now, they need to understand that this is not about feminism, and this is not about anything rebellious. This is about how you feel. and this is about expressing that. So agar aapko apni shaadi mein aisa lag raha hai ki aisa koi incident hua hai, and we're not getting into what the causes were because that's like a different tangent altogether. Whatever the causes, the moment you have decided that you cannot take it anymore, तब से लेकर जब आपने अलग होने का डिसीजन लिया, सो व्हाट वाज इट? सो यहाँ पर अभी अभी समर का मैसेज जो आया है, उन्होंने ये लिखा है, सोसाइटी एक्सेप्ट्स सबमिसिव वुमेन ओनली, सिंगल और मैरिड. Does either of you agree with that?
No, I don't agree
No.
because firstly, Renuka, I have to ask you something. When we say society, we use the word society so, we use it so tamely, in the sense that
Yes.
we keep pretending that there's this group of people in a separate space. We are part of that. We are part of society. So when we say that society accepts, who are these people? Your voice is equally important. It's
That is
it's equally important. So how you portray yourself and how you get out there is equally important. So you are part of society. So the way you react to certain situations is changing stuff right there.
It is. And I think it's not only, unfortunately, okay, while Sangeeta, I agree with what you're saying, end of the day, it's all about you because you fend for yourself, you decide what your life is going to be. And as long as koi tumhare bills pay nahi kar raha hai, why should you take any BS, But the point here is that economically, ऐसा देखा गया है worldwide that men के लिए divorce is always favorable. And I have the numbers, which I'm going to read out later. But the thing is that because economically, most of the times, women have taken a back seat, or most of the times across the world, women are not working. And therefore, जब भी ऐसा कोई decision होता है, तो उनको अब सोचना पड़ता है कि अगर घर हम दोनों ने खरीदा था, हम दोनों के नाम पे है, तो फिर अब आगे क्या होगा? Because obviously, if the woman has to leave, घर छोड़ेगा कौन? That's the first decision. So in Sangeeta's case, as she said, that she walked out of the house in 2 weeks, right? So Shreya, if I may ask, what did you decide to do? Did you walk out, or did your husband walk out of the house?
We sold the house, and interestingly, I didn't get a penny of the sale. And I walked out, rented a place, shared with people. For me, it was more to a lot of people expected me to come back to India, and say, you were in a foreign land, marriage didn't work out, so you come back. I didn't, and I said I'm going to take it in my stride and see if I can, because end of the day, what I believe is either you choose to be happy with someone or choose to be happy just with yourself, and that's fine. It's about what gives you peace. So I walked out. Of course, I walked out. This house was sold. I didn't have anywhere to go, and I rented, and I survived. So it was a choice about whether I want to be in a place that is suffocating me, or whether I am okay to struggle and yet maybe breathe easier, which I did. And I'm going to be honest, I had never stayed in a house alone in a different land ever. So the first few nights I would bawl and cry myself silly. But that's also where you get your strength from, because you realize you're there for yourself, and you're growing and evolving, and you're happy to be with yourself. That happiness comes slowly because you've gotten used to a certain way of life. And I'm not talking about just the material benefits, it's about having companionship. Even if that companionship sometimes didn't work, you knew there was someone else in the house. Suddenly the emptiness eats into you, but then slowly you get comfortable with that emptiness. And that emptiness is not about being lonely, it becomes being okay with being alone. And that's what happened to me. And I feel, maybe I saw Sangeeta nodding, is you get used to things
You're
because
right. And if I
yourself.
may, there are
Yeah.
2 points that you guys have brought about. Okay, you guys have brought about 2 points. One is about the economic independence, and the second is about the impact that a separation or a divorce or being single brings on you mentally and physically. And of course, we are living as a part of a society, so definitely we cannot say that we are not a, we don't give a damn. uh, Directly or indirectly, we are forced to give a damn. Reason being, if you are lonely, you will look at someone And like, I have a question here which says that, there are common friends who don't want to meet you, and they are in a confused zone. And there is this person who's writing who got separated and was into 16 years of marriage. And even the former in-laws, they start thinking that they have nothing to do with you now, because their relationship with you was because of the son. Sangeeta, you want to say something?
Yeah, I definitely want to take that. That yes, absolutely, that happens. And when that happens, you realize that they were never friends.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
You know, they were friends. And I've had that experience, and I have managed to absolutely cut off and find new friends. There's no dearth of people, and there's a load of people out there who then, and I firmly believe that the people who come to you during your worst times are your best friends, and they stick with you for life, and they're there with you. And, your in laws, I mean, your ex in laws, for
Hmm.
crying out loud, they're your ex in laws. You walked away from that home. Why should they matter to you anymore? They're
Hmm.
not going to. I think one of the things is, if I had had this interview 5 years ago, I would have probably been in the same space and said, oh, my ex in laws and this and that, and, made it all very dramatic. But I
Right.
think looking at it now, it's like there is no choice. You have to move on. It's not like you can hold on to your in laws and say, please give a damn about me. Please, let's pretend like for 16 years I was the queen of this house. They don't care, they're just like for my parents also. And actually, can I just bring in a quick thing over here? Is, I
Sure.
think boys, when when men get divorced and when women get divorced, I think the families react differently. For men, it's like, वो तो थी ऐसी, अच्छा हुआ गई, and you can carry on. And ये तो पहले से, we had seen this पहले दिन से, and my son, my lord, my master.
Right.
And for the woman, it is more like, क्या गलती कर दी? Something must be, na? You must have, like, don't repeat the mistake, and let's whatever. But thankfully for me, I think, because maybe, I don't know, matriarchal society, whatever it is, it's just a question of accepting. My parents just accepted it, and I there was no choice. Like I'm saying it, there is no choice. So that's why I'm saying it again and again, that it does not matter about society. And the point you made about how common friends,
Hmm.
or being single, and then how you feel like you need a partnership, it's not just to single women.
Hmm.
I mean, there are lots of times, because where married people are looking for
Hmm.
partners. So even that, and I think actually the pressure comes from there. I think in many ways, Indian, I don't know about Indian society, but society actually enjoys a single woman and a nice divorce story, because it becomes a lovely violin. You play a violin in the background and listen to the story. But the minute he moves on,
Yes.
that is when your problem starts. It is not as a single woman. It's when you move on that suddenly you're saying, what? My Meena Kumari is suddenly, she's got a life of her own. Ye kaise hua? Kab hua? And she didn't take permission from society. That is the turning point.
All right. So hold that. Shreya shaking her head.
Yeah.
Okay, Shreya,
yes, well, a lot of
why
things.
do you agree with that point? Why do you agree?
Uh,
Am I
no,
listening to the same story? I mean, you two are in
it's
agreement.
not about agreeing. No, I would like to maybe shake up the audience a bit to say, when I didn't walk out immediately when I decided to. We were still waiting for the house to be sold, and I was in that house sleeping in separate bedrooms. And my mother-in-law had already put up his profile on shadi.com. And there were, yes, and I was in that
Okay.
house
I mean, the point
while
is she was still
sleeping.
ready for another Shreya, which is awesome. That means she liked you. Okay, positive.
So, and there were women calling my ex-husband, and he was having these conversations of when he's going to either go to Pune or Delhi or wherever to go and meet these women. And I was in that house. I wasn't gone. They hadn't called me. My mother accepted it, but her worry was more that, you're going to be alone. Are you going to be fine? Are you going to be able to manage on yourself, on your
Wow.
own? Do you want me to come? I said, no one's coming. I'm going to manage. And in a way, where I could have cried and said, "Arey, ye to shadi.com pe, Bharat matrimony pe ye ho raha hai." I said, good on you. I hope you get someone better. You know, did I feel bad? I felt like throttling everyone. But that was, and same thing. There were one more little, bombshell where I had friends, like Sangeeta said, friends who would call me not to ask me how I was. So either they wanted to suddenly have coffee with me, they hadn't thought of having coffee with me in years, because they wanted to know whether I'm crying to them and they have a role in my life to wipe the tears, but just for that sake of wiping tears, or kuch nahi. I'm being
Right.
very brutal, but I've been through this. The second was to ask me what I'm going to do with my maid and my furniture. Am I selling my furniture? Could they buy it? And am I getting rid of my maid so that they could go and look at a transfer for her to themselves? On
We're
the
having
other side, no, on
yes.
the other side, the fun part was my Singaporean friends, local friends, they would call me and say, babe, if you need to move, our car's there. You don't need to come get a moving company. They didn't care if it was such a different, when we talk about society, we are talking about both societies are Asian, right? But my local friends gave me strength saying, screw it. Sorry if I can use that language on
Yeah,
radio,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we'll
You've
come
done it.
pick you up, pick
Too
your
late.
stuff, and yeah, and we'll help you settle in. While the rest were worrying what my furniture is going to happen to my beautiful furniture and could they buy it off me. So yeah.
I have a question, and for obvious reasons, it's anonymous. It says, no offense, but is it true that men look at single women as available, while married women feel insecure about single women attracting their husbands? What do you guys? Who would like to take that up, and what do you have to say about it?
Well,
Rishi, you
if I
want
can go first, yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
See, it's not about being looked on as available. Yes, of course, there are times, but even when you're married, sometimes you're looked on like that. Uh,
Hmm.
it also depends how, as in, do married women feel insecure about single women around their husbands? Yes, I've seen that.
Yes.
I've seen that at parties. I, right after I was married, I had some of my husband's friends call me up to say, in very simple words, would I like to sleep with them? And they'd always found me hot. And I'd be like, okay, does your wife know you're messaging me? There have
This is
been wives who
after,
said,
this is after your divorce, after you were
after
separated.
my divorce.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
moment you are
Uh,
single, you are available, is the point.
Yes, and I've also been struck off party lists. People stop calling you because you're not a couple anymore, and they
Hmm.
give you the excuse that you'll feel uncomfortable. So it's better we meet, and they suddenly start meeting you only as women's groups. And it's all women starting to meet you and starting to mingle with you. For me, I didn't have time to do too much of this because I had to I had to make sure that my daily bread was there. I had the
Right.
job, and I could fend for myself. But that's how it is. I've had people call me up to say, sorry, this Saturday we are having a party, but we're not calling you. But they called my ex-husband because he was already dating someone. So that's how it was.
Okay, interesting. Sangeeta.
Okay, this makes I don't know. This is such a mixed thing, but I've never been hit on.
You're
Okay,
lucky.
hang on. I totally feel for you right now. You know what? This is coming to be agony aunt kind of a thing right now, and I love it. I have to applaud for you. Okay, so मेरी तालियां नहीं बज पाती हैं यार, रुक
तालियां
जाओ।
नहीं, मैं ही बजा देती हूँ।
ना ना, मैं
So
स्टूडियो में बजाऊंगी यार, ये कोई बात हुई? बज ही नहीं रही है, पता नहीं क्यों बजेगी।
damn.
Okay,
Okay, so
so
anyway, so I've never had, and I think I'd like to mention my friend. I'm sure she won't mind being mentioned. Sonal, Sonal Sharma. She's a very dear friend
yes.
of mine. And when I got divorced, and she used to tell me, she says, the thing with you is that you look so unapproachable that nobody is going to approach you anyway.
At the right time. No, but you know what, this question is important because I think a lot of people, and I have myself experienced, a lot of people, while they are inviting the single women, they are, whether it's a joke, and I don't think it's in good humor, frankly, but sometimes a lot of these women, specifically the married ones, would say usko rehne do, husbands ko bacha ke rakho. I've actually heard that, and it becomes a little bit of a stereotype for sure, and also the way you think. So it's not about educated, it's not about metros, it's not about being from a village or uneducated. It's about how you respect. It's about the respect element of it, right?
I've heard of this. It's never happened to me, but I know that it is prevalent. I know that people do think like that.
Right.
I know that happens, but it's never happened to me, to be very, very honest. And I'm absolutely fine with that. But I have to agree with what one of the things that Shreyashi said. I have been cut off many, the party lists of many, many people,
Hmm.
which is absolutely fine. Which is really absolutely fine. I
Yeah,
hate dressing up. I
exactly.
hate going to these parties. And when what, I come back from work by about 7:30, I'm tired anyway, can't be bothered. But I
Hmm.
have struck off, and there was a party that I was invited to where one of the things I asked the hostess was, "Is my ex-husband, has he been invited?" And she said yes, and I said I'm not going to be there because it makes me uncomfortable. And for me, it was on a moral ground where I said, how can society accept someone who's done a certain something, and then you're kind of validating that behavior? So for me, it was more of that. And I said, if that's the kind of society it is, I'm really not interested in being a part of your group or whatever. Can't
You
be
know
bothered.
what? You guys are actually echoing what the surveys say. So, social rejection, as it sort of is talked about, is very prevalent. And they say that the status of divorced women deteriorates as compared to the married men and the married women and the divorced men. So it sort of is just sounding like that has happened, because sometimes you don't want to believe the surveys and you feel, why both of them are divorced, why the hell would one suffer more than the other, right? But social rejection as well as the respect. And on that topic of respect, I've got a message here from Nisha says that the society does not accept single women, especially the Indian society. So in India, women are preferred to be widows rather than divorcees. So
Wow.
they say that if you're a widow and a single, people still respect you. But if you are divorcee and you are single, she says strong words, but that's the bitter truth. And it could be education, we could be modern mentally, but we still live in the prehistoric era. So, do you think do you think that is something that you guys agree with, or
I don't.
no?
That
Like I said, it depends on each person's situation and how they have what they have seen after their divorce, and I have not seen that. And um, I mean, firstly, I haven't gone around taking a survey of people and asking them, what do you think of my situation? So I don't know, therefore. And secondly, I think what happens, Renuka, is that once you find yourself in a particular space and where you have to cement yourself financially and emotionally, I don't think we have the bandwidth to sit and listen to too much of chatter from outside.
No,
Uh,
that's because you choose to. But what we're talking about is, yes, you have your filter and you choose not to bother. But does it exist?
like I said, I haven't heard it.
Mm,
I
right.
haven't heard it. And if someone's thrown me off their party list, I have been grateful. And it's not like I'm sitting here moaning away. So it's fine with me. So it's
Oh no,
actually
I still love you. I want you on at my parties. Please, please. Huh?
yay.
Hey, but a point here that I see on the screen, there's a question. Sangeeta, I'll read it out for you.
Yes.
Uh, all right. So somebody here says, why society? Our own parents and siblings also distance because of social stigma. I cannot afford my own place, and my parents are embarrassed because of me. What am I to do? So, did you guys, either of you, face something like that? And when I say siblings and parents, I mean, did you guys have that kind of reaction that
No.
no social stigma, they didn't bother?
social stigma, no. But yeah, they kind of, at one point they thought I was not taking the right decision. He was doing well in life, he was educated. A lot of times I think the benchmark of a person you're with is not how the human being as a person is. It is about, how established and well placed they are in life. Sometimes I'm not talking about the fact that there was strong social stigma, but I was asked, not just by my mom and my brother, but also very close friends, saying, he's so well placed, you sure you want to leave him? And I'm like, is that the reason why someone stays with someone?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I've seen that, not for myself, but I have seen other women who've gone through that social stigma, A
Yeah.
lot of times I feel women can't take a very strong decision to step out. Sangeeta and I had that courage, maybe because we believed in ourselves very strongly that we'd be able to do it. And I'm not saying women don't have a belief in themselves. Sometimes they are made to believe that you need to be dependent on the man.
Hmm.
And he fends for you, and there could be many who are very well educated, but they haven't pursued careers to be strong enough to say, well, you know what, I am going to be financially independent. It's a very big leap to take, especially
Yeah.
if you're living outside India, where you're not you may not have a PR, you're not a citizen, getting a job is not easy, you're on a dependent pass. What do?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have
Or the
wife, you have
sanctity,
to
or the
take
sanctity of a relationship, Sreshi. You know that
care of
it's so,
something.
there's so much of sanctity attached to it that you're not supposed to step out of it. You know.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
And then you have the social stigmas attached. You may have this whole this the family saying, no, we're not going to take you back. Where does the woman go? I know of few, because I also do, I counsel, and I'm trained in domestic violence counseling. I see that. I've seen that in India, I've seen that um, in Singapore, I've heard that around. But there's still women, and I hats off to them, even in spite that they've walked out saying, you know what, this is the amount I'm going to tolerate.
hmm.
Yeah.
And they've taken that
Hmm.
leap of
There's
faith.
nothing no more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, in my view, as I hear you guys, and also the comments that are coming in, I feel that it's a very, it's an individual's decision. A lot of women who are pretty much independent. They decide not to move out of a relationship for their own reasons,
Yeah.
for children maybe or whatever. But and many of them who are not dependent, not independent at all, and they are very dependent on their husband, still decide to. So there was a question here a second ago which said, were you guys working before you got divorced? So
Yes.
both of you were working. Okay. And you did not have to, either of you did not have to rely on your husbands, ex-husbands, for to kind of take care of your expenses, or
No, I had to. I
you had
had
I,
to.
I, I had to. I had to. I wasn't earning. When I came to Singapore, I took a huge pay cut to start off almost at the bottom of the rung,
Right.
because so I was a trailing spouse then, but I had also told him that if I don't get a job in 6 months, I'm leaving. So I was
Hmm.
strong enough to say that. But good that I did get a job, but I was earning one tenth of maybe what he was earning. And he was an interesting man because he made sure that even if I was earning one tenth, I was paying many things for the house, from groceries to maids to bills, everything. So by the end of the month, my salary account was almost zero.
Hmm.
So yeah, so yes, of course, I was dependent on a few things, but maybe that's one of the things that I didn't want to take. There was too much disparity and too much of calculation.
So is that something which you were told by your parents, by your people who cared
Never.
for you, that how you're going to manage your life if you just walk away from someone who's actually paying for
Of
you?
course, my mother was worried that you're living in Singapore is an expensive place. We know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you going to pay your bills? And you've gotten accustomed to maybe a certain way of life. But it's about the words you tell yourself, that what is getting accustomed to, and what is comfort, and what is peace.
Hmm.
So yes, of course, I struggled. I have. I've gone days initially where I knew I maybe just would be able to afford a meal a day, from living in a five-story townhouse
Right.
to shared accommodation with two other unknown people. So yeah, it's an interesting roller coaster, but that's what's made me today who I am. Nothing. I think what really helps when you go through the doldrums in really bad situations, it makes you fearless. What else can happen? And I'll handle it.
Absolutely. Sangeeta, you were saying something at the beginning.
No, I was just saying that yes, I had to rely because I have a daughter, and payment for her school and air transportation and everything was quite a major chunk, studying in an international school, and there was no way I could have afforded it on my salary. I run my own theater company, and there was absolutely no way, because there'd be months when I wouldn't take a salary from my company.
Company. Yeah.
And so yes, absolutely, I needed it. And like Sreshi, when I came to Singapore 18 and a half years ago, I left a very lucrative job. I was a producer in a production house doing ad films, and I left that and I came here as a trailing spouse. And I
Mm.
always believe that the one thing, and I was on a dependent path for the longest time, and the one thing I always think is that women who are on dependent paths should know their rights. They really should know that they have zero clue about their rights, and especially if they have kids, God help them. Because of the age
Mm.
convention and everything, it's really tough on them.
So there is a question here that maybe you can just, while you're answering, you can also talk about this. How do the kids deal with the trauma of having a single parent suddenly, right? They're used to a certain standard of living. They're used to having two parents around, both of them, obviously both playing a certain role in their lives. And then suddenly, and they're also, in case of your life, Sangeeta, and I think Shreya does not have a child. But Sangeeta, your daughter was a teenager at that time already, right? So does the society accept them? Is the
Okay, so
question.
this is where I would have a lot more to say actually, because yes, children have a certain level of trauma, obviously, because suddenly there are two, a set of parents, and then there is one main person they're living with, and the other person is limited contact. So yes, obviously they go through it, and you have to address it immediately, whether it means seeing a counselor or talking to them about it. And I was the approach that I used with my daughter was I was very honest with her. I
Hmm.
said, this is what's happened. This is what I'm feeling. And days when I, like Shreya, she would sit and bawl my guts out, I let her see it because I didn't want to pretend to be a superhuman person and then
Hmm.
be something else and then break down and, have all sorts of different layers of characteristics. I couldn't deal with
Yeah.
all of that. So I let her see whatever, I let her see my vulnerability. I allowed her to have her own vulnerability.
Hmm.
And does society accept them? Very interesting because she goes to an international school where she used to go to an international school where there's a lot of kids who are from from homes where the parents are divorced, and so
Yeah.
it was fine. But a lot of times I have heard Indian parents say that about other people, where they say that what do you expect? No, she's coming from a broken home. The child's coming from
Hmm. Hmm.
so that I find a bit strange, and I would really urge listeners, whoever, that stop that, like immediately stop that, because that is not your child in a home where you have a set of parents who probably can't stand each other is a worse, more toxic atmosphere than in a space where the mother and father are away and they
अभी बज रहा है हाँ अभी बज रहा है I had to calm you down a little bit. I could see the seriousness. So, Sangeeta, that's a very, very extremely important message that you've just conveyed. And I'm sure Shreya would agree with me because many times you're right, the Indian society, yet again, and that's why in the beginning I made a disclaimer that this may not be applicable worldwide, but definitely the Indian society, many times we tend to stereotype our thoughts.
yeah.
Divorced hai, so there was one point here which even talked about relatives are a pain, and this one was told that she could never adjust in a marriage. Pata tha pehle se. But of course, the reason is stated very clearly that she gave birth to daughters, and that's why she's divorced today. So there could be different reasons, but yes, we are very typical in our way of thinking sometimes, and specifically the impact on a child can be tremendous. The trauma can be tremendous. So while on one side you decided to be very open and honest, there are people who may not. And also it depends on the maturity of the child. How much the child is able to take it and how much do you want the child to take as well. So did you guys, we touched upon the topic of impact on yourselves physically, mentally, right, and how people reacted to that. So while on one side, just finishing the topic about the financial penalties as such, it is stated that divorce usually makes men significantly richer because when a father is separating from a mother, then of course his available income sort of increases, and it's said by about one third actually. And in contrast, the women suffer the financial penalties, which is again I'm talking about the general global surveys and the numbers from that. But just going back to the depression, the health problems, and many times suicidal tendencies, loneliness, trauma, in fact losing confidence. So did you guys ever have those moments, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, loads of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, loads of them that you were there and you were feeling it's you're at your most vulnerable, you've been through. And I mean, for me it was a 20-year marriage. uh,
Mm.
and suddenly, at 45, finding yourself single. At that time you just don't have what I have now, which is like, what, 45 and single, like, amazing. You know? But at that point in time, I was like, 45 is single, what's going to happen? But you find, and like Sreshi said, it's from your doldrums that you find your biggest strength.
Mm.
From the worst part that you suddenly find your biggest strength. That's when you find yourself on the floor crying away, and asking yourself, where did I go wrong? Why me, God? Why me? And then doors open, and suddenly you take yourself seriously. You put yourself first, and all the motivational stuff that all the posters that you looked at and poo-pooed suddenly start making sense. Like, yes, love yourself. You are the
Mm.
most important person. All of that starts making a lot more sense. So yeah.
Mm. Shreya, how did you handle it? You come
I've
from a
had, sorry,
go on, yes.
do you come from a,
लग गई
you
मेरी
hear
बात.
that, right?
मुझे लगा मैं बच गई. Okay, no,
No.
I'm saying that typically a Bengali society could be a little bit more traditional in terms of on one side they could be traditional, on the other they could be extremely literate and very advanced in terms of their thinking. So which one did you belong to, and how did they react?
I came from a very progressive family. My parents have always been very supportive. They believe in giving me freedom to choose.
Hmm.
Of course, I was dating this guy for about 3 years, and then we were married for 6, so I knew him for 9. Um, of course, to answer your first question, yes, of course, I've had thoughts of just, killing myself and ending it all, and the loneliness is what gets to you initially. But you kind of you read books, you read. The sea helped me. I was living right next to the sea, so my walks helped me. My sitting and watching the waves helped. Whatever little waves in Singapore we have, but the water, the expanse, that helped me. And you talk to yourself, you start realizing that the deepest relationship you're having now is with yourself, and you need to understand yourself. um, I've been really down in the dumps. And how have I dealt with it? I look back now and I think, wow, I was 33, 34 when people start their lives and start building their lives. So here I was seeing my world almost crumbling, and everybody else I kind of knew were building their lives and, getting okay in life. And you find that disparity, it kills you inside.
Yeah.
And what also helped me were my local friends, um, because to them, being married and being in a certain community, society, mingling, all that didn't make sense. So I
Hmm.
kind of, while I was happy I was not being called to parties, and initially, of course, you would feel bad because these are the same people who would wait for your Saturday night guest list at your place, right? And But you kind of ruthlessly pull yourself out, and you completely create a different world. I was also very lucky because from my first job, I was in a very Singaporean setting. So
Hmm.
thankfully, I had many local friends. And still today, some of my closest friends in Singapore are locals.
Hmm.
But back home, of course, my mom faced judgment calls from relatives.
Hmm.
Um, she said, maybe at one point she said, maybe I haven't brought you up well. And then, kind of, she said, well, but and she's a gender specialist, she's a feminist. She said, no, but what am I talking about? As long as you're happy, I'm okay. And
Hmm.
as long as you're not in a really bad spot, I'm okay, and you can come back home and be with us anytime. That was a huge confidence for me. But
Hmm.
I think Bengali society, contrary to what you say, is actually very advanced.
Hmm.
They accept a lot more than I've seen in the rest of India.
Okay.
But I think what happens is diasporas are more ruthless with the way they judge you and treat you. Back home, things are way, way better.
That's really good to know. That's very positive to know. So, just one common question to both of you before we end this. It's been 55 minutes and 37 seconds. You'll be surprised
Wow.
that we have people watching us and kind of enjoying this conversation. I'm hats off to them more than anything else. हम तो बातें कर ही सकते हैं. So,
Mm.
so my question to both of you is that has this whole experience, the whole experience, made you bitter, made you negative, or you guys are still very much open to relationships? You are open to, kind of going back to old friends, living a life like it used to be, and you've just moved on. Okay, so there could be two parts to this. One, of course, right after the separation and the divorce, and so many years down the line, if there is any difference. Please do mention. Sangeeta, go first.
Immediately after, no, I was not ready for a relationship. I mean, my whole thought process was just to get myself stable and going, where I
Right.
could wake up without being in a pool of tears, and just move on. But now, yes, I'm absolutely, I'm not as bitter. But then, I mean, there was a point where I was very bitter. I mean, I would look at any man and I just thought, men just hate everybody. That entire speech. Now it's gone. It's over and done with, because I've dealt with my pain, with my trauma, with whatever you want to call it, and just learned to accept life, the way it comes. So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's changed a lot. I had never thought that, today I'm 50, and I had never thought that at 50 this is where I'd be. But
Hmm.
in many ways, I'm so glad, because I've discovered a new me, and there's in a relationship, in a totally different relationship, and I love it.
Are you encouraging my audience to walk out of where they are by
No,
giving such an amazing picture of where you are today?
and
It
I'm
really is.
encouraging women who are in bad marriages to walk out. Do not use your children as excuses. Please do
Absolutely.
not use your children as excuses. But definitely, if the water is well above your head and if you feel like you can't breathe, yeah, walk out. But get
Hmm.
yourself financially stable in the long run, and just make sure that you're financially independent, and then just walk out.
Right.
I did not walk out when I was completely financially independent, but I had a job, and then I'm still working at becoming financially independent, to be very, very honest.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Shreya, what about you? The same
Um,
question.
yeah, of course, there were rebounds after it. I was bitter then. But if I look back, would I live my life any way different? And am I sad that it happened? No, not at all. I
Hmm.
wouldn't live my life any different. And I'm very happy that I've gone through such doldrums because it's made me stronger. It's made me who I am today. Um, am I open to relationships? Of course, I'm seeing someone for the last 5 years and I'm always open to more love. So as in you learn to love yourself so much more and embrace yourself so much more that you open up to more positivity. So no, there's no negativity left at all.
Lovely. So you guys have moved on from those moments which were sort of tough. They were absolutely negative, hovering around you, killing you in and out. But you moved out and you took that first step and never looked back, which is amazing. I think that is totally amazing. Just to add to that, it is said that once women decide to move out from the negativity, well, it says that their BMI decreases for women who are divorced. I'm just giving you a very positive side of what's happening. The waist size, according to the surveys, the waist size of divorced women, it decreases. Their blood pressure, it gets better after they are divorced. All right, and this is statistically proven. All right, I'm really not talking out of anything but proof, and I'll send you all the papers later if you want. There's improvement in healthy eating for women who are divorced. They're more worried about or more caring towards themselves. Let me put it that way. And physical activity also increases. No pun intended. So, with all
Had to add that.
Yeah,
but
fantastic side effects.
Exactly. No, but there are lots of actually comments coming here as well. I'll quickly flash them for you guys to go through later so that you can reply. Well, people are obviously happy that you have walked out. You have been strong. They are all supporting you when you say that you don't care about what people say. It's more about what you do. I understand that's your. We also have your mother here, Shreya. Um, Tapati Sengupta, she's your mother. I know, hello. And at the same time, there's Geeta, who's obviously saying very proud of you guys. Very well done. Oh, that was for me. Thank you. And and of course, so just go through the comments later. I think what is important is that today you guys have decided to be independent. You are amazing inspiration for women who are still pretty much dealing with the complexities of their lives because they've been married and they were told to accommodate and to adjust many years ago, and they are living up to it. No right, no wrong, as I said in the beginning of the show, each one to himself. But as Sangeeta mentioned, um, when it's way up there, it's time to take an action, and both of you have totally lived by that. Any last words before I let you go off my screen?
Yes,
I
can I
think,
just give them
yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Sangeeta. Go.
can I be a little evil?
I was expecting that. Go ahead, yeah. Be a, you know
So
what.
about 3 years ago, I went on to dating sites
Uh-huh.
and I saw some of your husbands there.
I love you for that.
Okay, so you know what? Okay, so point goes back to the little question which was here. No offense, but are these single women? Do they give you a reason to be insecure? Yes, they do, because they go on dating sites, and rightfully they should. But when they find your husbands there,
They
uh,
swipe left.
I think we got to have a show. We got to have a show where we have to say when we find things about your friends' husbands, shall we
Shall we
share
tell?
that, or shall we shut up? You know, because that's also a very big
No,
question.
she
Many
said swipe left. Don't forget that. Sangeeta said just swipe left.
Just swipe left.
Swipe left.
and then make a quick call.
And
No,
I'd
just
just
swipe
like to add, I'd just like to add, because I'm seeing some of the questions down below,
Yes.
is, it's about time we realized, and it's about men and women, is there's a very big difference between being lonely and alone.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we may be alone, but we're not lonely. We're quite comfortable in our skin. We're not always looking out for your husbands. That's also there. But yeah, exactly. But I think it's about taking that call, that right call, and imagining yourself what gives you peace. Once you can imagine what gives you peace, you'll work it out yourself anyway. We women have that strength inbuilt, no matter what we've been brought up with.
Whoa! I love that. Oh my God. This suddenly became like a womanhood and all that. We should have had a guy here. Oh no.
Yes, absolutely. I
This,
agree.
And then numbers and the survey at him would have been so much fun. But
yes.
anyway.
Then if you have a question, I think because it came up in very big bold, I'm not able to see all the questions, but I saw one question where I think it was Vivek Vaidya who asked,
Oh, okay. What?
I can't remember the exact
Oh,
question.
yes, of course. There was one question he asked, and I quickly flashed it. I could not. Just give me a moment. I'm going to get it back on the screen. He says he has many friends who divorced each other. Every divorced guy got married within 6 months. None of the divorced women got married for last 6 years. What are your thoughts on that?
When I have a reaction, I just say that women learn much faster. They're never going to repeat the same mistake twice.
Okay, the moment she took permission to be evil, I didn't know it was an open-ended one. there's no closure to that except the closure to the show now. Shreya, you obviously echo that.
Yeah, of course. We're okay to be on our own and just figure out life a different way. We don't need to repeat it. So it's quite okay.
But you are also open to, there are right guys, they always around, and obviously there are women who have also been a pain to the right guys. So it's not always that, guys are the bad ones. I mean, I have to get guys on my show next time, so I better be nice. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Sangeeta, and thank you, Shreya. I think this was just an amazing conversation. I totally enjoyed it. I'm sure people did by the way they have responded to this. But I would love to have you back on the show. If there's any reason that any of my audience want to reach out, are you okay if we share your details? Because I saw one question, how do we reach you? I don't know for what reason. But yeah. All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I shall let you ladies go, and more power to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Renuka. Bye, Shreya.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. All right, that was amazing. I think I totally enjoyed that conversation, guys, because क्या होता है कि हम society की बात करते हैं and यहाँ पर हम एक बार एक शादी करते हैं तो हम सोचते हैं कि वो जिंदगी भर के लिए, and that is what we are taught, and there's nothing wrong about that. Marriage is the end all and be all. Fantastically said, Rachna. Thank you so much for joining today, and I saw you right from the beginning, so thank you so much for staying as well. At the same time, guys, I do want to say that divorce now is a part of our lives, not only in India, but across the world, and acceptable part of the Indian society as well, as the numbers show us. In the modern times, of course, matrimonial columns, as I mentioned in the newspapers, are already talking about divorcees seeking new partners. So that is the way that we have opened up. Of course, we don't talk about the details here, but it is acceptable, is the big question. Today, when we talk about pre-married state, it is equated with post-married state in one single word, which is called single. So when we say single, we don't have to be spinsters. And I'm talking in terms of being a woman, because this show was all about society accepting single women. Yes, there are people who do still feel that women are respected more if they are widows, not when they are unmarried, or they choose to be unmarried, or they are divorced. But it's a matter of time, because each one wants to stay happy in a relationship. End of the day, a very painful relationship is not going to help the guy, not going to help the woman, and definitely not going to help the children. Think about that till we meet next time. This is Frankly Speaking with Renuka. We have more interesting topics coming up, definitely every Wednesday, 6 p.m. right here on Masti AVI. This is Renuka signing off. And yes, if you have anything that you got to say, you know where to reach us. It's Radio Masti 24/7 live.